The night was still, the kind of stillness that amplifies every whisper of unease. Emma sat in the kitchen, phone in hand, staring at a single message glowing on the screen. "Can't wait to see you again." Last night was perfect. Her heartbeat echoed louder than the rain tapping against the window pane. Ryan was asleep upstairs, or pretending to be. For weeks, he'd been distant. Late nights at the office, a different cologne, smiles that didn't reach his eyes. Everyone told her she was overthinking it, that Ryan adored her. But beneath her calm expression, suspicion churned like a storm. She closed her eyes, memorizing the number from the text. Her hands trembling not from fear, but from the cold realization that the truth was no longer hiding. It was knocking on her door. Morning arrived too brightly for Emma's sleepless eyes. Ryan moved around the kitchen with the easy grace of routine. Coffee, toast, a fleeting kiss on the cheek. But the distance between them was no longer invisible. Each word from his mouth felt rehearsed, each smile a mask polished by habit. "Big meeting today," he said, not noticing her steady gaze. She wanted to ask about the message, but the moment collapsed under the weight of her restraint. Instead, she simply nodded, watching his reflection in the window as he adjusted his tie. Outside, the sky cleared, cruelly serene, as if mocking her storm. The sound of his car fading down the driveway left behind a silence that felt more final than goodbye. Later that afternoon, Emma met Maya for lunch at their usual cafe, a ritual of comfort that now felt like confession. The chatter of strangers faded as Emma leaned forward, voice trembling but measured. "There's someone else," she whispered, eyes fixed on her untouched cup. Maya's brow furrowed, disbelief shifting quickly to anger. "I told you something was off," she muttered, her tone both protective and pained. The two women sat in silence for a moment, bound by the weight of truth. Outside, life went on. Children laughed. Cars passed. But for Emma, time had split cleanly in two, before the message and after. That evening, Emma searched the house like a ghost, retracing her own steps. The scent of Ryan's cologne lingered in the air, sharp and unfamiliar, a fragrance she hadn't bought. She opened drawers, checked receipts, and found the hidden phone tucked beneath folded shirts. Her pulse surged. Inside were dozens of messages, each one slicing deeper than the last. The words weren't only romantic, they were logistical, calculating. Mentions of transfer, paperwork, and deadline. This wasn't just an affair. It was a plan. She sank to the floor, the phone slipping from her hand, realizing she'd been living in a lie built with her own trust as its foundation. When Ryan came home that night, Emma pretended to sleep. His footsteps were steady, confident, unhurried. The gait of a man convinced of his control. Through her half-lidded eyes, she saw him glance toward her, then turn away, his phone lighting briefly as he texted someone. Her breath caught as she read the faint reflection in the mirror across the room. "She doesn't suspect a thing." Rage flared within her, but she stayed motionless, every heartbeat echoing the vow forming in her mind. She wouldn't confront him yet. She would wait, watch, and let him weave his own downfall. By morning, Emma's mask was as polished as Ryan's. She moved through breakfast with mechanical grace. Laughter feigned, her every motion a performance of normalcy. Ryan spoke casually about his day, about meetings and clients, but his eyes betrayed a flicker of unease, a sense that something had shifted. When he kissed her goodbye, Emma's lips barely moved. As soon as the door closed, she exhaled, the silence swelling around her like armor. She picked up her phone and called Maya. "You were right," she said softly. "He's hiding something, and I'm going to find out exactly what." Maya didn't hesitate when Emma asked for help. Together they drove to the bank, pretending it was a casual errand. Emma's palms were damp as the teller confirmed her fears. Joint accounts recently accessed, funds transferred under Ryan's name alone. The paper trembled slightly in her grip. "He's moving everything," Maya murmured, her voice laced with fury. Emma stared at the numbers, her mind snapping into clarity. The betrayal wasn't just emotional. It was surgical, methodical. She wasn't losing a husband. She was losing her life's foundation. That evening, Emma waited by the window as rain began again, relentless against the glass. When Ryan finally came home, his tone was practiced. His smile mechanical. "Roday?" he asked. She nodded, offering a hollow smile of her own. "Just tired." Every word was a blade hidden in silk. He poured himself a drink, completely unaware of the new sharpness in her gaze. When he turned away, she whispered, "You should rest. You have a big day tomorrow." Her voice was steady, too steady. Ryan glanced back, suspicion flickering in his eyes for the first time. The game had begun. The next day, Emma followed Ryan. Maya's old sedan trailed his car at a cautious distance through the narrow streets. Ryan's route should have led downtown, but instead, he turned toward the outskirts. When he finally parked near an unfamiliar apartment building, Emma's chest tightened. Through the rain-specked windshield, she saw him meet a woman. Clara, young, elegant, laughing softly as she touched his arm. The sight was quiet devastation. But Emma didn't cry. She only watched, eyes unblinking, memorizing every gesture. Her trust was gone, but something colder, sharper, had taken its place. Resolve. Back home, Emma stared at the photos on her phone. Proof of everything. Her hands shook as she swiped through each image, not from heartbreak, but fury contained too long. Maya sat beside her in silence, her presence grounding Emma's spiraling thoughts. "What are you going to do?" Maya finally asked. Emma's answer came quietly, a whisper that cut the air like glass. "I'm going to make him tell me everything, but not yet. Not until he thinks he's safe." The rain had stopped outside, but the storm inside her had only just begun. Days passed, each one tightening the invisible cord between Emma and Ryan. She smiled when he smiled, laughed when he spoke, and all the while she gathered pieces of truth like shards of glass. When he left one morning, she followed him again, alone this time. The city seemed to hold its breath as she parked a few blocks behind. She watched him enter Clara's apartment, her heart no longer breaking but burning. Minutes felt like hours. When the door finally opened, she lifted her phone and pressed record. The laughter drifting from inside wasn't romantic. It was conspiratorial. That's when Emma realized they weren't just lovers. They were partners in something darker. Inside her car, Emma listened through the half-open window. Clara's voice drifted out, bright but edged with nerves. "You're sure? She won't find out." Ryan's chuckle followed, smooth and confident. "She trusts me completely." The words struck harder than any scream could. Emma's hand tightened around the phone, knuckles white. When Ryan mentioned transferring the last of her funds by Friday, Emma's breath hitched. They weren't just betraying her heart. They were stealing her future. She hit record again, capturing every damning word. The world outside seemed to tilt, colors draining until only rage remained vivid. Emma drove straight to Maya's apartment, her hands trembling on the steering wheel. When Maya opened the door, Emma's composure cracked for the first time. She handed over the phone, pressed play, and let the truth speak for itself. Ryan's voice filled the room. Calm, callous, self-assured. She'll sign it all over before she even realizes. The recording ended, and the silence that followed was unbearable. Maya's jaw clenched. "You need help?" she said finally. "Real help." Emma nodded, her tears drying as quickly as they fell. "No," she replied. "I need evidence." The following day, Emma reached out to Detective Harris, a contact Maya knew from her cousin's law office. The detective's voice was gravelly, measured. a man who'd seen too many secrets buried under civility. After hearing the recording, he exhaled slowly. "This isn't just infidelity, Mrs. Caldwell. It's fraud." The word echoed through her like a thunderclap. Harris agreed to help, but warned her, "You'll have to play the part. Let him believe he's safe." Emma's resolve hardened. She wasn't a victim anymore. She was a strategist, and Ryan had no idea the stage was already set. That night, Emma returned home before Ryan. The house felt smaller now, like walls closing in around the truth. She moved quietly through each room, placing small audio recorders inside drawers, behind picture frames under the dining table. By the time Ryan arrived, she was in bed, pretending to read. "You're up late," he said, loosening his tie. Emma smiled faintly, marking her page. "Just thinking," she murmured. "About us." Ryan's smirk faltered for half a second before returning. He had no idea she'd already begun the countdown to his undoing. Ryan's charm began to crack under the weight of his own deceit. Emma played her part perfectly. Soft smiles, gentle questions, the illusion of ignorance. But behind closed doors, she reviewed the recordings nightly. Each one, a confession captured in sound. Detective Harris worked quietly in the background, tracing transactions and building a case. One evening, as Ryan left his briefcase carelessly open, Emma found a document with her forged signature. Her stomach twisted, but her face remained composed. When Ryan returned, she was humming in the kitchen, stirring soup as if nothing in the world had changed. The stage was nearly set. Emma met Detective Harris again 2 days later in a quiet diner off the highway. She handed him a USB drive filled with audio and photos. "Planning. Plan A," she whispered. Harris nodded grimly. "Then Friday is when we take him." He slid her a small recording device. "Wear this when he talks about money again. It'll be enough." Emma's hand trembled slightly as she tucked it into her coat pocket. "What happens if he finds out?" she asked. Harris met her gaze. "Then you make sure he underestimates you one last time." Back home, Emma moved through the evening like a shadow, waiting for the moment to bait Ryan into confession. When he poured his drink, she asked softly, "Do you ever think about our future?" Ryan smiled lazily. "Every day." "Why?" Her voice was steady, innocent. "I just want to make sure we're safe financially." The word hung between them like a tripwire. Ryan smirked, swirling his whiskey. "You let me worry about that." Emma nodded, slipping her hand into her robe pocket, where the recorder hummed quietly. Every word from his mouth now was evidence. And he didn't even know he was already caught. Ryan's downfall began in the smallest way. A phone call during dinner, Clara's number flashing briefly on his screen before he silenced it. Emma didn't react, only offered a serene smile. "Work again?" she asked sweetly. He lied without blinking. That night, he slipped into the study to make another call, unaware of Emma's recorder beneath his desk. "Don't worry, Clara. She'll sign the papers. By Monday, everything's ours." The words sealed his fate. In the quiet that followed, Emma sat in the dark hallway, tears glistening not from heartbreak, but from vindication. The next morning, Emma delivered the final recording to Detective Harris. The case was complete. Bank transfers, forgeries, and hours of proof. Harris promised action within 24 hours, but Emma didn't feel relief, only a deep, shaking calm. That night, she prepared dinner as usual, lit candles, and waited. Ryan came home smiling, completely unaware that it was his last night of freedom. "Smells amazing," he said, pouring wine. Emma met his eyes and smiled faintly. "It's a special night." Her tone was gentle, her gaze unwavering. By the time the doorbell rang, Ryan's world was already collapsing. The evening began like ritual. Wine glasses clinked, laughter filled the air, and Emma's smile was flawless, the mask of a woman who had already won. "Ryan?" charming as ever, leaned back in his chair and talked about new ventures, about starting fresh. Emma listened, nodding slowly, letting him speak himself into a corner. When he reached for the bottle, she asked, almost idly, "Do you ever feel guilty?" His brow furrowed. "About what?" she said softly. "About what?" she said softly. "About the lies, Ryan. About what you took from me?" The pause that followed was cavernous. His expression flickered, his tone turning sharp. "What are you talking about?" Her reply was calm and lethal. "Everything." Ryan stood slowly, his voice low, controlled. "You're imagining things again." Emma rose too, her chair scraping against the floor like a scream. "Am I?" she whispered, sliding her phone across the table. The audio played, his voice calm and incriminating. "By Monday, everything's ours." His face drained of color. "You recorded me," he hissed. "You left me no choice." For the first time, she saw fear break through his arrogance. "You think you can ruin me?" He spat. "I already have," she said quietly, her eyes locked on his. The sound of sirens in the distance was no longer faint. The knock came sharp and decisive. Ryan froze, his eyes darting toward the window. "Who's that?" he demanded. Emma didn't answer. The knock came again, louder. Then Detective Harris' voice. "Ryan Caldwell, open up." Ryan's face twisted with realization. He lunged for the phone, but Emma stepped back, holding it firmly. "It's over," she said. He grabbed her wrist. She didn't flinch. "You did this to us," he shouted. "No," she said softly. "You did this to yourself." The front door burst open as officers entered, and Ryan's fury gave way to desperation. Emma stood motionless, watching his empire crumble before her eyes. The officers restrained Ryan as he struggled, shouting her name like a curse. "Emma! You'll regret this." His words echoed through the marble foyer, hollow and powerless. She didn't respond. Detective Harris approached her, nodding once. "You did the right thing," he said. But Emma's eyes remained distant. "The right thing doesn't always feel right," she murmured. As Ryan was led outside, the rain began again, soft and steady. He looked back once, and in that fleeting second, she saw the man she'd once loved fade completely into the stranger had become. Inside, the silence that followed was profound. Emma walked through the house, their house, each step echoing through hollow rooms filled with ghosts of laughter and lies. She stopped by the dining table, extinguished the last candle, and stared at the darkened wax. It was over, yet she felt no victory, only release. Her phone buzzed. A message from Detective Harris confirming Ryan's confession was on record. She set it down, exhaled, and whispered to no one, "Now it's my turn to start again." Outside, dawn crept through the rain clouds, washing the world clean. The next morning brought headlines and silence. Local businessman arrested for fraud and forgery. Emma sat at the kitchen table, the same place she'd first found the message that broke her world. Now the air was lighter, though the weight of betrayal lingered like smoke. Maya arrived with coffee and quiet pride. "You did it," she said. Emma shook her head. "He did it to himself." The calm felt unnatural, almost fragile. But when she looked out at the gray sky, she realized peace didn't roar. It whispered, and she was finally ready to listen. Days later, Clara Jensen reached out unexpectedly. Her voice trembled on the phone. "I didn't know about the money. I swear." Emma agreed to meet her, unsure whether forgiveness or confrontation would come. When they met at a small park, Clara looked nothing like the woman from those videos. The guilt had hollowed her. "He said he'd leave you," Clara whispered. Emma nodded slowly. "He said that to both of us." The truth lay between them like a broken mirror, two reflections of the same wound. "You don't owe me an apology," Emma said. You owe yourself freedom. Detective Harris called that evening. He confessed to everything, he said simply. Emma closed her eyes, letting the words settle. Hell served time, Harris continued. And you'll get what he stole back. But money didn't matter now. She thanked him and ended the call, her gaze drifting to the window where the first snow began to fall. Each flake melted against the glass, ephemeral and pure. She thought of Ryan, not with anger but with distance. Justice had done its part. The rest was her healing. Emma met with her lawyer to finalize the papers. Divorce, property transfer, restitution. Each signature felt like closing a chapter she'd been trapped in for years. You're free now? Her lawyer said, smiling faintly. Free! The word lingered as Emma walked out into the bright winter air. The city looked the same, yet everything felt different. Every sound, traffic, footsteps, laughter, seemed to affirm that she had survived something designed to break her. That night, Emma stood on the balcony, the city lights flickering like distant stars. Maya joined her with 2 glasses of wine. To endings, she said. Emma raised her glass, her smile small but real. To beginnings, she replied. The night air was cold, but not cruel. Below them, the hum of life continued, proof that the world had moved on, and so had she. The wind carried away the last trace of his name, leaving only the sound of her quiet victory. Weeks later, Emma stood outside the courthouse as Ryan was escorted to the transport van. He looked thinner, smaller, stripped of the confidence that once filled every room he entered. Their eyes met briefly. There was no hate in hers, only finality. You wanted control, she murmured under her breath. And now you've lost everything. He tried to speak, but the words caught in his throat as the guards led him away. The van door slammed, echoing through the cold air. Emma turned, walking toward the morning sun, the sound of closure following like quiet applause from the universe. Back home, the house felt different. Not emptier, but lighter. Emma began to reclaim it piece by piece, painting the walls, throwing away the remnants of their life together. She kept one photograph, the beach trip from years ago, not as nostalgia, but as a reminder of how far she had come. As the brush stroked over the final patch of wall, she whispered, "No more pretending." The color was warm, golden, her choice, her freedom, her home. Clara visited one final time to return something Ryan had given her. A gold bracelet engraved with Emma's initials. He told me it was from his mother, Clara said softly. Emma took it, turning it in her hand before setting it down. Keep it, she said. Let it remind you never to believe in borrowed lies. Clara's eyes shimmered, gratitude mixing with remorse. When she left, Emma felt no anger, only clarity. The women Ryan had deceived were no longer his victims. They were the final judges of his legacy. One evening, Emma returned to the ocean, the same beach from that framed photo. The horizon stretched endlessly, waves whispering in rhythm with her heartbeat. She stood where the water met the sand, letting the tide wash over her feet. There was no sorrow left, only stillness. She closed her eyes and breathed in the salt air, a silent promise to never lose herself to someone else's story again. For the first time in years, the reflection in the water belonged entirely to her. Months later, Emma opened a small art studio downtown, something she'd once only dreamed of. On the opening night, Maya stood beside her, pride glowing in her eyes. You turned pain into art, she said. Emma smiled, arranging a canvas that depicted a house half in shadow, half in light. No, she replied softly. I turned lies into truth. As guests drifted in, laughter and music filled the air. Outside, the evening lights shimmered like quiet stars, each one a reminder that even after betrayal, beauty could still begin again.